We mentioned earlier the three challenges that we saw faced public sector organisations, and the next one that we want to talk about past trust is engagement itself. So we know it's becoming increasingly more difficult to engage the citizen base because of a number of factors. And summarised here, we think one of the biggest issues is actually the communication gaps themselves. So being on the right channels, communicating people where they are. We were just talking earlier with one of our customers around TikTok. Like, that's a new channel that's emerging. Are you there or not? Are you engaging with people on that channel? The next piece here is around limited outreach and awareness. So because reaching people is actually quite difficult, how do you make them aware of all the services and products and offerings that you're actually servicing those citizens with as well? And because they're not aware of it, they're not engaging back with you either. Some, not all, public sector organisations are resistant to innovation and change. We know that's changing. I'll talk about that in a moment, why that's changing. But obviously that doesn't apply to the people in this room. But there are a number of organisations that struggle with adopting new technologies. And finally, kind of linking back to what we said earlier, citizens don't want to engage with organisations that they don't trust. They don't see the point and reason for doing so. Here's a couple of examples. So we know in education, they're trying to provide messaging and communications out there in a more consistent way. And how do they do that when you've got phone calls, emails, text messages going out, social media channels, letters? So melding the traditional channels with the new emerging digital channels, which are becoming more primary. Central government, they're trying to encourage users to do that digital shift, to get away from the traditional channels. Phones are very expensive channel to be on, social's very easy, email's very cheap, etc. And then finally, housing associations as well, is how do they create that consistent crisis management process as well, given that their demographic is everybody from children through to the elderly who probably struggle with modern technology. Wow, that is really bouncing, isn't it? I learned earlier the reason that apparently that's bouncing is because the drilling that's happening over there is reverberating through the building, and that's that. I don't know if that's true, but I've been told that. So one of the things we can do to help is obviously make the new channels more accessible and interactive. So firstly, we've got to be adopting those new channels, and it is really difficult because there seems to be a new channel or a new network appearing every year or so. We need to communicate more around why certain decisions have been made and open that transparency up to create that engagement, so that if people can gain that trust back with you and they trust you being transparent, they're more likely to engage in the decision-making process alongside yourselves, which links onto the next item. So encouraging collaboration with citizens on problem solving. So engagement isn't just, are you getting the messages in or not? It's actually collectively creating that group of individuals or citizens who want to help define what the future strategies will be and what decisions should be made today. And then the final piece here, of course, is you've got masses of data. There's I'm sure we're all swimming in it. And again, as more channels open up, there'll be even more data. So what tools can you use to help get a better understanding of what's within that data itself? And that's not just statistics, by the way. I think when people think data, they're thinking numbers. It's actually people's thoughts, feelings, opinions that is kind of hidden in all that text that you've got. So the way Orlo can help is, I mentioned Orlo Insights earlier, but if you're using Orlo today and you've got your social channels plugged in, and you've got things like WhatsApp plugged in and all the other channels we offer, Orlo Insight gives you a view into what your community, what your citizens, what your population are talking about. You can see how that's changed over time. Are they talking about more things now than they used to? Maybe you want to query them on certain things around, I don't know, that planning application. Is that chatter happening? And if you plugged in those external sites at the forums, are people talking about that building development in that area, so you can get their opinions there as well? But of course, they're talking to you directly as well. So what emotions, themes, and trends are occurring within certain topics that you may be interested in hearing about. The next one, and I think this is probably one of the most understated reasons for why engagement is really difficult at the moment, is that our demographic of a citizen who's engaging with public sector organisations is changing massively. And not just the citizens, but also your colleagues. So people who are now working in those organisations as well. So for example, my dad's 70-something. In his head, he still goes to the council house. I actually don't know where it is in Coventry anymore. But he'll pick up the phone. He's not going to start to engage with you on socials, whereas this younger demographic who are now first-time buyers, renting homes, whatever it may be, they expect to be able to talk to you on those social channels. And we know public sector is slightly behind private sector in terms of adopting technology, but citizens today don't really care. They expect to be able to interact with all the public sector organisations the same way they would do with ASOS or Expedia or whoever else. The next bit as well is the changing in demographic of colleagues as well. So the older generation are now, retiring. Can't wait to get there myself. But they're also, yeah. You can speed that process up. Yeah. But they want to be using the latest technology, and that, that helps with the retention problem as well. If they're using the latest tech and they're using the tools that help them do their job more efficiently and effectively, they're more likely going to stick around, and also probably more attractive to work for as well. And social channels also that awesome broadcast mechanism. You can communicate with everybody instantly. You don't need a subscription list. If you're promoting your tweets or your Facebook posts as well, they don't have to be a subscriber or connected to you. You can target people within a certain demographic or area and reach them instantly. The next bit, of course, is involving your citizens in decision making. This is like stating the obvious, I know. But it's not always clear to people where to go to get involved in certain conversations. It's not always clear to people what conversations are actually occurring that they could get involved in as well. So I know we've got Granicus with us today as well. The tools that they provide, your citizens, that's where the conversations are occurring. So why don't we signpost people there? I'm not saying create that conversation on social and handle it backwards and forwards in inbox. That may be unmanageable. However, if you can get them to know that there is a dialogue happening around this thing, and if you want to get involved in that conversation, we'd love you to signpost them to where that thing is actually happening, because we also know that there are certain formalities that have to occur around. Social isn't a formal route of complaint or dialogue, whereas these other platforms are. So it makes absolute sense to direct them there. And also, once decisions have started to be made, or you're having, other decision points that need to happen along the way, and you need that extra dialogue, share that on social. Let people know that we're making this progress, and actually we need to have another meeting around X, Y, and Z, or there's this poll that's happening around it, and so on. That was really quick, sorry. Any questions on that stuff? Oh, one at the back.
Sorry. Do you want to know when Hards is retiring?
15 years, I hope.
You can answer that question if you want.
I'm aiming for 15 years. But if my wife keeps having kids, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah, but that's moving away. Thank you, Tom from East Suffolk Council. You mentioned about the the growing constituency of people using more and more different platforms, different channels, different social tools as they emerge.
Yeah.
How would you counsel others to deal with some of the thorny issues that sometimes come up with the ethics and governance around some of those channels? I mean, a lot of people, not taking a position on it myself right here, but some people find TikTok problematic in terms of its affiliations corporately. People struggle even with really quotidian tools like WhatsApp because of the data residency and the opacity of that. So how do you tackle that?
I think
really small, simple question.
Yeah. The problem with that is there's no one answer for every organisation is going to have a different answer for it. So central government, we know in the UK right now, are like, don't go near TikTok. Local government, police forces, etc. Well, that's a great tool to be able to engage that younger demographic, because that's where they are. A lot of it, this is a really boring answer, it's going to come down to those organisations' data policies and security policies themselves, and that's really boring and tedious. They'll all be slightly different. I probably shouldn't say this, but I wish TikTok would just go away. It's a nightmare for lots of reasons. However, WhatsApp, on the other hand, that's a completely secure channel with great encryption. That encryption now bothers certain law enforcement agencies because they want to get access to that data. I don't know if you're aware of the EncroChat stuff that's gone on and all that sort of stuff. Now they're saying, well, is WhatsApp now another form of EncroChat? It totally depends, but in most scenarios, you're completely fine and safe, but you're kind of governed by yourself. So it's kind of a non-answer, but it's not easy.
Thank you.